Alrighty then, it's time for a Jungle Aatrox game, and this is one champion that's very difficult to talk about. Which one? Because his fans are very adamant to his defense. They get really angry. Which too, I mean, the last time I talked about Aatrox, I mentioned or I criticized him, some people got really defensive. In the other video I uploaded with a short list of champion reworks that are going to come out in the near future, somebody brought up why hasn't Aatrox gotten a rework or why isn't he on his list, and thus the Aatrox defend force came out in droves. They came out to defend Aatrox, and a little bit of an argument exploded. Now, if you guys remember, the last Aatrox video I uploaded was called Aatrox Doom from the Start. And it's pretty much the same thing. I can go about it, talk about the same things I talked about back then because they're still relevant. Basically, his kit is ridiculously janky. And when he came out, he was very abusive because of the sustain he offered, but also because of the combinations he had with the items that were available at the time that were very strong, namely Randall and Zoman. So, Aatrox, whenever he gets to do sustain or do the thing he actually wants to do, is very oppressive and very toxic. And so far, Wright hasn't really figured out any proper way to rework him, even though he could still technically win. Now, a while back, or like more like season 3, I actually said that Aatrox was a great first pick jungler, and actually kind of liked him a lot as a jungler. It was true, but as items became more complicated, as more and more champions came out that could just destroy the shit out of him, he became worse and worse. Not even as a niche pick could niche pick could even make any sense. He really doesn't seem to have much of a place outside of really extreme split pushing. As a jungler, his sustain is good after once you get like in a rank 2 in your W, and you can pretty much sustain yourself forever. But his gold requirement is one of the steepest around. Mostly because of the janky way he fights, and because his abilities aren't all that great in team fights. He really needs items to actually start stabbing at people. And unlike other carries like a Master E or Tryndamere, he doesn't really have anything else other than just sort of walking up to people or hoping his Q doesn't get stopped or something. He's very, again, just very janky, and on a carry, that's not a great thing. I mean, yeah, if you sort of look at him on paper, he's got an AoE knock-up gap closer, which would be amazing. However, it's very unwieldy, it's very telegraphed, and rather slow. His E is a AoE with quotation marks, an AoE slow, but has such a very thin, like actual, a thin hitbox. Especially when you're trying to chase, it's not really that usable, and it's also pretty slow in itself. His W is fine, it's just, but the whole sustain thing is pretty messy, and his ultimate is ridiculously underwhelming. Yeah, it does some burst damage, and you can do some really cheesy AP Aatrox shit, and the attack, but then it's just attack speed. It's not that real great on its own. His passive is, give or take. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. Anyways, as you can see, this game's going a little bit back and forth. I actually got off to an amazing start, killing 2 people right off the bat, then getting another gank, getting quite a bit of farm in the jungle too, in consideration how many ganks I've been putting in. Eventually, I'll ramp up and start just destroying camps and just farming out a storm. Also, thankfully, because my teammates have died quite a bit of times, I was able to just soak up a lot of experience and get some more artificial farm for my jungle. I say artificial farm because I normally wouldn't have this many minions if I had just been farming the jungle. So, hooray for thievery or taxing your teammates. Now, as I said earlier, there's no real team composition Aatrox would really fit in. So you kind of only pick him as a comfort pick, and even then, as a jungler, I don't really know if I could suggest him anymore. It's just everything counters him. And like a lot of champions that came out just absolutely butt wreck him. Like the first time I realized, okay, you know what, I can't pick Aatrox anymore and fear that I'm not a liability to my team, was when Azir came out. And Jesus Christ, did Azir just run circles on me. That's one of the most frustrating and tilting matches I ever had. I couldn't do anything. Just his wall alone would completely destroy Aatrox. And it was just kind of a very bleak encounter. And otherwise, he'd kite me, just destroy me from distance. And yeah, they nerfed him since then, but I'd assume he'd probably be able to do the same things anyways. Out of the way, enough about the discussion about Aatrox. I'm assuming some of you might even be angry at me in the comments, or you'll discuss it amongst yourself. I'm now just going to kind of commentate on the video itself, with maybe some bits of discussion here and there when the game sort of slows down. Anyways, here I go completely stupid. If you can see, my passive's about to come up, and I was hoping to try to bait them, but I got a little too, I got a little too penisy. I should have backed off and just waited for my passive to actually be up rather than risk the last couple seconds for it. Either way, that was very dumb of me, and we didn't really get much out of that. Thankfully, the rest of my team is pretty damn big as well, or mostly the Swain. He alone could probably destroy the enemy team. Of course, here though, he was kind of just in a really terrible position. He got very greedy, so... In this game, I'm just going straight up full-on carry Aatrox. I'm not even building any tankiness. I went Blade of the Ruined King first. I'm going to get myself a Hydra next, and then finish up the Blood Razor. And I forgot what my last item was. I believe it was one last attack speed item, just to go in a little bit of flurry. I think it was Black Cleaver. Yeah, not attack speed. Yeah, I believe my last item was Black Cleaver. Now, as you can see, what I'm focusing more is on just sort of creating this pressure, trying to force somebody to fight me 1v1. Because I figure at least 1v1 as Aatrox, I'll be able to beat almost anybody except the mages. So I'm just farming, split pushing, trying to track their aggro. I mean, even as a jungler, you can probably do this with a lot of champions, or a lot of champions like Aatrox, a split push. So at the very least, he's got that much. So if you're sort of fed as Aatrox, I guess that can be one of his boons. That if you get big as Aatrox and your team isn't on the up and up, you could sort of force the enemy team to do some to split up and for your teammates to take advantage of everything else. By the way, my team just kind of let me die there, and then that was like the slowest response ever. Anyways, actually, I gotta mention this. Aatrox, again, was one of my go-to champions for the longest of times. I believe it was in Season 3 and a part of Season 4 where I literally spammed them non-stop alongside Jarvan and Zac and Dr. Muno here and there. On one account it was just Dr. Muno and Aatrox. I liked playing Aatrox a lot. I believe I uploaded a shitload of Aatrox videos like a couple years back. And it mostly only really worked because you could sort of go some kind of semi-aura whore with 1 damage item at some point. I mean, in the jungle, he was rather fair, right? He wasn't super overblown through the jungle. But in lane, whenever he became good, he was way too much. He was way too strong. And it's always been something that sort of unnerves me. It's like, if Riot just makes certain changes to make a champion into a jungler, they wouldn't really need to consider massively reworking them. I could see Aatrox, with some quality of life changes, becoming a jungler, as long as they sacrifice his lane potential. Because a lot of champions are just like sort of there. They're like, one little change can make them jungle adequately, properly, and functionally, and enough to maybe even be considered a practical choice. But those same changes that would make a champion into an adequate jungler would make them into an insane laner. So there's some champions like that, and we've seen that in the past before, where a champion was buffed for the jungle, and it all of a sudden made them insanely strong in the lane. Anyways, the enemy team is going for Baron here, and you know the drill. I don't really get to steal it, but they're super low health, so it just kind of come in like a wrecking ball and destroy them. And he comes in, kills one of the kills the Zyra, and then Swain comes in through the sidelines and pincers them in, and they just get absolutely obliterated. They still technically have Baron on one person, but that cost them too much. I don't believe we actually managed to push off of this because we push a little slow. I think we get 1 tower, but the enemy team respawns in time to sort of fight us off. Or actually, we don't even get a tower. I don't remember this clearly. I threw my life away thinking that maybe we had enough damage, but no. It seems I'm pretty piss weak. And that seems to be also one of the bigger weaknesses of Aatrox. Again, his ridiculous steep gold requirement is unfair. I mean, certain junglers have higher gold requirements, right? Like Master Yi and Jax and stuff. They require a lot of gold. But they can have a little bit of power spikes where the curve isn't just a gentle curve. It's like, spike and then curves a little, spike, and curves a little and spikes again. Aatrox just seems to be just a big old curve, very little spiking. Like you get I've purchased Blade of the Ruined King before, and I don't really feel that much stronger. I mean, I definitely am stronger, but not enough that I can just slaughter everybody. It requires a very extreme, continuous flow of gold as Aatrox. So that's very grim. Grim as a prospect. I believe even when I was making the jungle tier list a long time ago, even when I liked him the most, even when I had a lot of good things to say about him, I always put his jungle expenses insanely high. I'm getting a little nostalgic. He's one of the champions that I have almost all the skins for as well. Though I never bought that pirate one. Not that good. It's just sort of like when I was playing this game with my friends yesterday actually, I was kind of really enjoying myself because it was feeling so nostalgic. I think I told you guys in the Malzahar video that sometimes when you're getting a little burnt out by a game, you decide to play something new, and something new when it revitalizes you, and then it makes you want to play older champions. This game I was supposed to play Jungle Quinn so I can try her out, get more footage and whatnot. And then I said, you know what? Who I haven't played in a long time? Aatrox. So forgive me a little bit for getting a little bit nostalgic on it. I was having a blast even during the really stupid moments I was doing, and even looking back on the replay, I'm getting a little bit more nostalgic. But my God, I played Aatrox in season 6 a while back on top lane, not in the jungle, top lane, and holy shit, did I just get absolutely giga wrecked. And it was not even close. I believe my opponent was Gnar. It was Gnar and the enemy jungler was Kindred, and I just couldn't do jack shit. It's like even in team fights later on, Kindred's ultimate alone just kind of ruined me because Aatrox doesn't really have the fastest damage possible. So it's just very grim prospects. And I am as equally surprised as everyone else that he didn't get he wasn't put on the list for the reworks. Either I propose that either he gets made into specifically a jungler, and it can be done because it's been done before, in sacrificing his lane potential, or he definitely needs a rework, at least making his abilities a lot less janky and exploitable. Anyhow, as you can see, this game is starting to wrap up. The enemy team, we've got them sort of on the ropes, but we keep doing a lot of dumb shit. Namely me, I do a lot of dumb shit, and it keeps getting us punished. In this case here, we fight a very scattered fight, and a lot of the a lot of my big teammates died before the fight even began. So unfortunately, even though we kill 4 of them, and Kog'Maw looks like he's going to be able to destroy the rest of them, Jax comes in, finishes off Kog'Maw, and it becomes a total wipe. It's pretty unfortunate for us. We're not being organized, though of course, in our little group games, we're not that organized to begin with. We just kind of jerk around we jerk around too much. Anyways, here again, I got a little too cocky thinking that Syndra was alone. I should have probably known better. So Swain, unfortunately, joined me in my little folly adventure and died for it. Still, though, my team is able to get Baron in exchange for the enemy team getting Elder Dragon and 2 of our lives. So their super push is going to be countered by our minion super push, or counter push, I mean. So it's going to give me and Swain a chance to revive. They will be getting this turret, but they engage really poorly, and they get countering. Well, they engage poorly, and they get counter engaged by Nami, and we give a bit of a chase. And they actually didn't get the turret. Holy shit! I didn't even realize that. By the way, Jax gets killed. I jump over, deal some damage to the Ezreal, but I realized I would get absolutely destroyed. And then my teammates just my Swain once again pincers them from behind, and it just does the whole anvil and hammer tactic and destroys them. And then I blink over, catches Zyra, and with this, it's our victory march to the Nexus. Hooray for us! It was very nostalgic. I kind of miss Aatrox, but I just can't seemingly pull out wins anymore with him in ranked and very, very serious games. He needs work. My bro needs work. Anyways, hooray for Aatrox and friends. Yay. This channel is supported by my sponsors, Crunchyroll and Loot Crate. Check out the description below for links to the websites. Signing up for any trials, including Crunchyroll's free anime trial, greatly supports my channel. Also remember to give the video a like to support the channel and subscribe if you haven't yet. I've also made a Patreon now, and if you wish to support me through that medium, then I welcome it.